Hello everybody, Pankaj here. Welcome to SAP Production Planning session number first. So in our today's session, we will discuss about SAP basic functionality. So before going ahead, Ash, could you please confirm if you are able to see my screen and if I'm audible enough, Ash?
Yes,
Yes,
Pankaj.
sir, you are audible and I can see your screen.
Very good, very good. Thank you. Thanks. So, okay. So we will start our training today today is our first session basically. Okay, so we will start from very basic functionality and very basic things about SAP, and then slowly we will move ahead. So before going ahead, we will quickly recap our last couple of sessions what we did in our demo session. Okay. So in our last session, we majorly discussed about material requirement planning at very high level. Okay, we haven't looked into the system, but at very high level, we discuss about what is material requirement planning. Then we also discuss what is classic MRP and what is the difference between classic MRP and MRP live. So basically, at very high level, material requirement planning is nothing but it actually a planning engine which do the net requirement calculation based on requirement, current in hand stock, as well as current open receipt system used to do the calculation and find out the shortages. And for that shortages, system used to propose the procurement proposal. Either it's a purchase requisition or it's a plan order based on the procurement type. If material is in-house manufactured, then system propose plan order. If material is externally procured, system propose the purchase requisition for that. At very high level, we discuss about the MRP, and then we moved ahead and we discuss about the MRP area. In SAP actually proposed three kind of MRP area. One is plant MRP area, second one is storage location MRP area, and third one is subcontractor MRP area. So basically, MRP area is nothing but it's the smallest organizational unit where we can do the material requirement planning. In SAP, we can do the material requirement planning at storage location level. We can do material requirement planning at plant level. Also, we can do the material requirement planning at subcontractor level. So there are three kind of MRP area, that is plant MRP area, storage location MRP area, and subcontractor MRP area. In detail, we took one example and we discussed how system is doing the calculation for each of this MRP area in our last session, right? Also in the first for the subcontracting MRP area, first we discussed like what is the subcontracting process basically, where we used to supply the raw material to subcontractor, and on behalf of the based on the requirement, subcontractor used to supply us back the semi-finished material, right? And to do the better understanding or better planning, SAP also recommends to go ahead with subcontractor MRP area so that we can definitely do the planning at subcontractor level. We can easily understand what is the stock lying at subcontractor 1, subcontractor 2, and system should not do the mix up, right? That's also we discuss. After that, at very high level, we discuss about what is the basic difference in MRP area ECC and MRP area as per HANA, right? We discussed like in ECC, we used to have a MRP customization point where we need to activate the MRP and MRP area. Also, we need to activate the planning file entries for the MRP area. So that kind of configuration is now no more required in SAP S/4HANA. Second thing, third thing, that is storage location planning. When we are doing storage location planning in ECC, would we have two options available? One, that is we can do the storage location MRP area and do the planning. Also, we have an additional option available at MRP4 view where storage location indicator is there. We can easily exclude the storage location indicator from there. With some additional configuration, we can achieve that the specific storage location, the example is either it will be a rejection storage location or scrap storage location, which will not be considered in the material requirement planning, that we can do it in ECC. But in SAP S/4HANA, to avoid an extra logic, to avoid an extra coding functionality, SAP came up with the solution to go ahead with only storage location MRP area. If we want to exclude a specific storage location from the MRP planning, we can simply create the MRP area, storage location MRP area for the storage location, and in that we can definitely go ahead and say no planning, ND indicator over there. So the system will not consider the stock which is lying in that specific storage location in the MRP. The second option, which is there at MRP 4 level, we can also have an additional indicator. That option is now not available in SAP S/4HANA. And the fourth simplification, what we discuss in case of subcontracting MRP area, we need to create the subcontracting MRP area. Then we need to assign the subcontractor to that specific MRP area. And then that MRP area that we need to extend to all the components. Now that step was mandatory in SAP ECC. Now in SAP S/4HANA, that step is optional, right? Till that point, we discussed MRP and MRP area in our demo session. Eventually, we will discuss the same thing in our incoming session when we will move ahead with our step-by-step scenarios. Okay, but this was the demo session that what we discussed at very high level, and maybe in our incoming session we will go jump into the system and we will try to create the scenarios for that. Right now, before going ahead, I just want to know if you have any kind of question on MRP area or MRP part, because in today's session we will discuss a very high level about the SAP functionalities. Okay, that will be again a theoretical part, but just before going ahead, I just want to know if you have any kind of questions on MRP area. You can unmute if you have any question, or you can raise your hand. You can ask your question. Okay, I'll take as of now you don't have any kind of question on MRP and MRP area. Maybe we will discuss the same topic in our running incoming sessions whenever we will go to the MRP part. Now in our today's session, we will discuss about SAP Basics. What is SAP ERP? What is ERP and what is SAP? Okay, so this course that what we are taking here is that is actually, we crafted based on the requirement what we understand. Like in our session, we do have the candidates who are having very less knowledge of SAP, or they are very new to SAP. Okay, or maybe the people who are working in some other ERP system and they are first time looking into SAP. These kind of candidate also will be there in our training session. So the basics of ERP and basics of SAP, that could be those who are actually working on SAP environment as of now, that will be a repetitive for them. They must know about the things. Okay, and they feel like it's a very basic and they really don't need that information. But this is our crafted course and we need to cover all the topics from the basics. So if you have already some knowledge on that, you can still be there, you can listen and you can understand the same things again. If you don't have any basic knowledge on that, then that will be always useful for you. Okay, so basically ERP is nothing but enterprise resource planning, correct? ERP, you must know, you must heard about this thing, enterprise resource planning. So what is that ERP actually, and what is SAP then? You must heard about ERP, enterprise resource planning is there, and you must heard about the SAP as well. Then what is ERP? ERP that we know is a planning, is a just a the tool, the business helpful tool, like to run any kind of business. Okay, we used to implement the enterprise resource planning tool in our system, in our company, right? So it's a just supporting business tool, that I can say. Okay, ERP. So within that ERP, we do have different kind of ERPs. You must heard about like Oracle. Oracle is one of the ERP, right? Also, you must heard about BAN ERP operating system. Then there is one more that what I saw in my career, that is JD Edwards. Okay, JD Edwards is also a good ERP. Also, there is one more that is material tracker system. Okay, I don't have that much more information about material tracker, but in one of the industry they were working on material tracker system. Also, there is one more that is Sage. Sage ERP is also there, and also many manufacturing industries or many companies, they used to configure and define their own ERP system based on their own business practices. They used to create their own ERP by using some coding like the like .NET or something. By using that kind of coding structure or that kind of software, they used to create their own ERP system also, right? The same kind of thing we have SAP. Okay, so basically there are various kind of ERP systems available. Okay, Oracle, ban tracker, material tracker, sage, right? And SAP also is one of the ERP. Okay, so we can anytime go and based on the customer requirement, based on the business requirement, business used to take a decision which kind of ERP they want to implement, and they used to implement it. And that's what I'm saying. Like in some of the industries I've seen, like they used to develop their own ERP because they don't fit or they don't want to invest so much of money on the infrastructure. Then they don't want to invest so much money on the implementation, right? Or the hardware and software, so they can create their own ERP and it can be useful. So what is SAP and what are these kind of ERP? Like if you go into the market, you can find so many ERPs available. Okay, like Tally is also one kind of one ERP. Okay, many companies use and still working on the Tally. FoxPro is one of them, right? FoxPro, I actually in my initial days of my career, I used to work on FoxPro, right? And after that, the same company implemented ban. Okay, still I was there. I was the the consultant, or I was the user for ban ERP operating system. And when I left that company, then I heard from some of the friends, like those who are still working over there. They said like now they have been removed ban and now they are implementing SAP with them. So maybe SAP could be a one milestone, like each of the industry want to achieve it. SAP and Oracle. Oracle is also one of the very good ERP operating system. That why what I heard. Okay, but as compared to SAP and Oracle, I'm not here to do any comparison between any ERP system. I'm only talking about SAP. So SAP is one of the most integrated ERP system available in the market. Many companies want to implement it. It's very huge or high in the cost. Okay, but still SAP used to fulfill all the requirement of the business, and many of the companies used to implement SAP over there. Right now I'm also working one of the project. It's a very global big company. They are right now working on Oracle, and we are actually replacing Oracle with SAP. So at very high level, I can say like SAP is one of the or ERP system that is right now is doing very good thing in the market. So what is SAP? Like many people still don't know the full form of SAP. Even when I started my journey as a SAP consultant, I was also very confused about what is SAP. Okay, I used to call it as a SAP. Okay, so basically, after this course, I hope nobody will call that SAP as a SAP. SAP is actually a German language. Sorry, in German language is one of abuse. Okay, so yeah, don't go and call it as a SAP. Okay, it is a SAP. Okay, it's nothing but system application and product in the in data processing. Okay, so after this session, or when you will be going to work as a SAP consultant in your career also, you will never call it as a SAP. It's a SAP. Okay, so basically SAP started journey with SAP R2. Okay, we will discuss in detail these things. Okay, it started journey with SAP R2, then it moved to SAP R3. Those who are actually really working on the SAP environment, they must know about this kind of terminology and functionalities. Okay, then SAP came up with SAP ECC. Okay, then SAP S4 HANA. So if at a very high level, if you look into it, what is SAP R2? SAP R2 is the first generation of SAP. Okay, I'll put it here as the SAP first generation. Okay, then SAP R3 is the second generation. Okay, the people who are actually really sitting in this training session, they must know about SAP R3, okay? Because that was the generation which was started around in 90s, okay? And many of the people who know about SAP R3, but suddenly in 2000, okay, 2004 or somewhere, okay, we will discuss in detail. SAP came up with the next version, that is SAP ECC, and that is nothing but it's SAP's third version, third generation, okay? And nowadays you can see there is where you can you must heard about SAP S4 HANA, SAP S4 HANA, SAP S4 HANA everywhere. Okay, so what is that SAP S4 HANA? SAP S4 HANA is or SAP's fourth generation. Okay, now we will discuss about this thing. Okay, in today's session, what are these generation, what actually SAP used to do, what SAP did in this kind of generation, how SAP switch this SAP generation shift, actually how SAP switch from one generation to next version, generation, that we will discuss in the in little detail. Okay, I'm moving to the next topic, that is SAP generation shift. We discussed like there was SAP R2, then SAP R3, then SAP ECC, and then SAP S4 HANA. So what was SAP R2 basically? I'll put here like it was, let's say, first generation, right? What we are talking is the first generation. It was started, SAP started journey with first generation in 1970s. Okay. SAP started the first generation as SAP R2 in 1970s. So what was that basically? Okay, I'll go here little down and we will try to, maybe you must heard about this generation. Okay, so basically why SAP used to call it as a R2 as a product, because it's nothing but it's a real time two tier, okay, two tier architecture system. It's little technical, and you guys maybe we are actually the people who are actually working in SAP production planning model, they don't know about these kind of infrastructure or this kind of SAP any kind of technical things. They are not really aware about that kind of what kind of architecture SAP is using and these things. But at very high level we should know what is really this two tier three tier architecture. In SAP R3 it was a three tier architecture. So what is these two tiers actually? Okay, so basically SAP started the product as a SAP R2 is a two tier architecture system. That means SAP actually in this product, SAP was having two real-time layers. One is presentation layer, okay, presentation layer, and the second one is database layer. Okay, one is presentation and one more is the database. Okay, these two layers are integrated with each other, and hence that's the reason SAP call this product as SAP two-tier architecture. Basically, the database in this layer, in this SAP R2 database, was managed by mainframe system. Okay, mainframe database was there. DB. So what is that two-tier architecture? What is presentation? What is database? So whenever the user trying to access this SAP system, there was a presentation layer where user used to play a transaction, and it goes to the database, try to pull out the data based on whatever the logic is there, and it come up and give us back the inputs output. Okay, so in this database we are actually SAP was not only saving the data what you are punching, let's say day to day you are creating purchase order, production orders, and this thing, this is supposed to save in the database in the table format. Also in the same database layer there was a ABAP logic, okay, which we are sitting in the same database, where when user is saying, okay, I want to see the last month production, then the query goes to the database layer. In the database we were having data saved in different table. the query used to pull the data from that different tables. Then there was a ABAP logics and algorithm sitting on the same database, used to do the calculation and came back to the user on the presentation layer saying, okay, the last month production is this much. So all the ABAP logics and data was sitting in the database layer. So ultimately, there was a huge load on the database, okay, during RT system. And that is why, I'll just put it here like this, okay. That is why actually there were so many drawbacks in the system, okay. Drawbacks in the R3 system, R2 system. And what was that? The first is very poor speed and performance. That was the very basics and very, very basic drawback in the SAP R2 system. And that is why SAP actually continuously working on the next generation and try to do something. And what was next? It was having very poor user interface. So in nowadays, you must heard like in your system when you are working on SAP, there are GUI screen where from where actually user used to integrate with SAP, and from where user used to play different transactions. So GUI screen was there, but in very earlier stage when SAP launched SAP R2, that time there were having some black screen, okay, from where user used to log into the system and try to do the transaction. So that black screen was really not that good as compared to our current interface. And now in SAP S/4HANA, we have very different kind of interface, that is Fiori and all that things. But in 1970s, the interface with what SAP actually used, that was very poor. And the third thing is SAP R2 was having very poor integration. If I'm talking about integration is nothing but the integration with third party system. In many companies, we used to have different manufacturing execution system at very high level. If I'm talking about, let's say, you must have like in some of the companies, we are having some high tech machines, okay, where actually production is happening. And that machine is also having some, different, different operating system inside. It could be PLC, SCADA. These are very old system, but nowadays we do have microcontrollers, that kind of systems available. So system is actually doing that, that machine is actually calculating the daily production and all that things. Now when I'm implementing SAP in that company, that system is having some information with him, okay, and the same information user has to go at the shift and he needs to punch the system saying, okay, today's production is this much. Now there is a facility in nowadays, I want to directly do the interface or integration with that machine. SAP can directly talk to that machine and pull the information from that machine and use to do the entry for the user. So no need to go and to log in into system and put that entry in the system. That facility is nothing but your integration. In my current project, actually, we used to have RFID, okay, where actually when product is manufactured and it's moving from one location to other location, we have that RFID signal putting over there. So that RFID signal actually scan that product. On that product we stick the barcode of that product, and once that product is moving from that one location to other location, it scan, and in the system it says, okay, material has been transferred from one location to other location. So ideally, the business user no need to log into system and you need to tell the system like this material is transferred from one location to other location. It's automatically getting identified by the system, and the information has been transferred to the SAP. So this is nothing but your integration. So in SAP R2, the integration with any third party system was very poor. And that is the reason SAP continuously working on this part and trying to find out the solution, what to do next. Okay. And hence SAP came up with the second generation. Okay. And put it here as the second generation. Just a minute. In 1990, it took around 20 years of time to switch from R2 to R3. In these 20 years, okay, SAP did so many R&D to come up, and SAP actually looked what are the business problems over there, what are the actually business expectations over there, and SAP came up with the new product, that is SAP R3. So this is the product actually. In our session who are sitting, they must worked or heard about this product, because this SAP R3 is one of the product for which SAP has a very good market. It was a very big boom in the past, from 90s to the around 2000 and 2004 till SAP ECC came. Many of the companies implemented that SAP R3 in many of the companies. Okay, so what is that SAP R3? So basically, SAP R3 is real-time three-tier architecture. Okay, three-tier architecture, and there were having a functionality that SAP can use any kind of database. It was still having mainframe or something. SAP can work on any kind of database for that R3. So what does that three tiers then? So what SAP thought here in this, we were having presentation layer and database layer, and there was having very poor performance, because in the database SAP was not only saving the information but also doing the calculations and coding and logics. Everything was sitting here in the database. That is why system performance was very poor. SAP first thought to work on the system performance, and for that SAP actually added one more layer here. Okay, I'll put here like this so that it will be much better. Okay, SAP added one more layer in the architecture, and that is nothing but application layer. You must seen or heard about this kind of terminologies. So what was that application layer? Actually, what SAP did there, in SAP R2, in the database there was having very huge load, because the data was also there, your coding, your ABAP language, ABAP coding, everything was there. Hence your database was performing very poor. So SAP came up in SAP R3 system. SAP added one additional layer in between presentation and database, that was application layer, where actually your ABAP coding, ABAP algorithms, everything was sitting here. So ultimately now database is having little less load. Okay, so whenever user is coming and at a presentation layer, user used to punch the data entry and saying, okay, I need to check the let's say last month production. It goes to the application layer where the logic was written, and based on the logic and algorithms what we have written here, we just SAP used, I mean the information just pass on to database, pull the data, come back to application layer and present it back to your presentation layer. So the load on the database has been reduced. So what actually happened here, I'll put here some bullets. The database layer is actually reduce database load, right? Then what happened? Actually here in the application layer, what we are talking, ABAP code, logics, right, are sitting at an application layer, right? Then it ultimately increase the performance, increase the performance. But I'm here talking as compare to R2 is a good performance. Not if you are comparing the performance with your current ECC or S4HANA, it was still having not that much good, but as compared to the R2, it was having good performance. And in that time actually that was very good win for SAP. With this SAP R3, SAP did a very big business, right? Many companies actually implemented SAP because it's having three tier architecture as well as having very good performance and so many things. Also SAP came up because here what we discussed, there was very poor interface, right? User interface. SAP came up with graphical user interface. Okay, if you are trying to log in now, GUI screen is there. Whenever you want to log into any kind of SAP system, you need to log into GUI, right? GUI system, it's a graphical user interface, and it's very user friendly. where user can easily log into the system and go to the system and try to playing different kind of transaction through the presentation layer. So SAP came up with this GUI in the SAP R3 generation. Actually, I'll just keep little small so that I can put some more thing here. Also, what happened here, SAP improved the integration, okay, by using ALE and iDocs. Those who are actually working on the system on SAP, they must know about the ALE iDoc, that if I want to transfer the data from one system to other system, we can simply create iDoc and we can directly pass that data to SAP, right? So that kind of functionality has been added here. Also, SAP came up with some web-based applications, okay, applications with this product. So that was one of the biggest win of SAP, where SAP switched from SAP R2 to R3, and many companies actually acquired this product since having so many, the things in that product, right? As compared to any other ERP system, SAP actually did a very good growth in the during this SAP R3 in 1990s. Then still SAP, the performance wise, if you are talking about, it was very, as compared to SAP R2, it was having very good performance in R3, but still SAP continuously doing R&D and working and tried to, fulfill the business requirement. And SAP again came up with the next generation, and it's called, I'm sorry, this is nothing but SAP's third generation, that is SAP ECC, okay? Third generation, that is SAP ECC. And that generation, that ECC came up in 2004 and onwards, okay? So this was the very common and very many of the companies, because SAP R3, what I also heard, like there are very in India basically there were having only 22% of industries that time actually who implemented SAP R3. But when SAP came up with SAP ECC, that was a big boom, okay? It was the third generation, it came in 2004. So what actually there was in SAP ECC, the architecture wise, okay, architecture wise, it was having the same architecture. It was having presentation layer, application layer, database layer. In the application layer, all ABAP and your logics and ABAP coding was sitting, the business logic was sitting, okay, exactly the same. Then what SAP actually did in this generation, from it was around 14 years after SAP R3, SAP came up with SAP ECC. So what SAP did, about the major thing is about the integration. Basically, SAP came up with plugin interface. What is that plugin interface? You must heard about there are having different kind of modules like SRM, then CRM, then APO. This is very well-known module that PP consultant must know about APO. Then HCM. So what happened? Actually in SAP R3, let's say we will talk about the planning, okay? There were lots of planning constraint. When I'm doing the planning of any product, there were having so many constraint, okay? And SAP was not having solutions for that. If I'm talking about, I want to do the constraint based planning, when I'm saying, we in our demo session we discuss about material requirement planning, okay? Let's say in the material requirement planning, what planning engine is actually doing, planning engine is only doing checking what is your stock, what is your demand, what is your shortages, and for that shortages, it used to do the plan orders and purchase requisitions. But if I'm asking, if I'm expecting from the system, that system should check what is my work center capacity. Let's say per day capacity is to produce only 100, okay? If I'm manufacturing, I'm putting a load on the system saying on this specific day I need 100 pieces. Then system will do the MRP run and it will say do the scheduling, and it will say, okay, you can start your production at 6 o'clock, so that next day 6 o'clock in the morning you will be able to deliver this 100 product. Now it's done. What will happen if some other planner is coming and again putting the same kind of load, let's say 100 on the same date? Then what will happen? You will run the MRP and system will say, okay, again you want to have one more 100 quantity of product. System will again do the MRP run and it will say, okay, you can start your production at 6 o'clock. It will get end at 6 o'clock and you will be able to deliver it. Now at a top level, if you are looking, there are two different plan orders which are running on the same machine on the same date, but that machine capacity is to produce only 100. But your planning engine does not answer like saying, okay, on this day there is already one plan is going on, or already one production order is going on, so we are not able to perform, or we are not able to manufacture that product on that same day. So that kind of capacity constraint was not there, right? And business was expecting the planning engine should do the planning in that fashion, and there were in SAP R3 there were SAP was not having any solution for that. Okay, hence SAP came with one additional module, and it's called Advanced Planning Optimizer, where you can do that kind of capacity constraint. You can maintain that kind of master data based on the order priority. System itself check, okay, which is the first order that need to manufacture, and for that system will say, okay, at 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock today the priority first order will run, then next day 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock the second order will run. And that's how system used to do the planning in Advanced Planning Optimizer. Also at a very high level, if I'm talking about, let's say I'm having a raw material requirement, okay, and for that raw material I do have two different vendors. One vendor is exactly near to my factory, which can supply the material in one day, and there is one more vendor which is actually far away from my factory, which can supply the same quantity of material, but it will take, let's say, 2 or 3 days. Now when I'm doing the material requirement planning, now if my requirement is today itself or tomorrow itself, system should automatically check which vendor is supposed to supply material as early as, let's say, it's the nearest vendor, and system should automatically say and create the purchase requisition for that vendor. Okay, now let's take the same example, but the nearest vendor who is giving me the same product with very high value, the vendor which is actually far away from me, which is giving me the same material with less value. Now based on my priority, based on my requirement, system should be mature enough to understand for which vendor that requirement has to go, right? If my requirement is, let's say, after 5 days and I'm having two different vendor, then system should automatically check, okay, this vendor, although is supplying material by tomorrow, but it's taking much big value. Instead of that, we will go to the next vendor, and that vendor will supply the same material with lesser value, because my requirement is having, let's say, till 5 days, right? So system should mature enough to do this kind of planning. So that kind of planning was not available in your SAP R3. And that is why SAP came up with this kind of different modules. But unfortunately, SAP was not able to put the same modules on the same database. Okay, because they were having so much database constraint that we will discuss in the next generation. Hence, what SAP did, SAP developed this kind of module, SCM, CRM, supply relation management, customer relation management, advanced planning optimizer, supply chain management, right? This kind of modules, and put it in a separate box. And if customer is having requirement of SCM, we were having ECC system, just it's a plugin interface. You can just simply purchase this module with that hardware and software, that different separate box, and you can simply plug into your ECC system and do your planning. That facility was available in SAP ECC, and that is why here SAP was saying is R2, here SAP was saying is R3, real-time 3-tier architecture, but here SAP was saying it's a ECC, okay, central component, enterprise central component, where my ECC R3, SAP R3 was at the middle, and you can have a plugin interface with this kind of module. Okay. Also, in this generation, SAP improved. This is little technical. Oops, ABAP coding. In the ABAP, is ABAP is one of the module, okay, technical module where we have our mm, the logics and these things that has been written. So SAP improved the oops ABAP concept also. Also, in this generation, SAP came up with Web Pro. When you will start working on the system, you will come to know what is WebD info and all that thing. So basically this is the application or tool where web-based applications can be developed, and for that SAP also came up with floor plan manager. This is little technical where SAP actually tried to improve the system by using these technical things. So many floor plan manager and web info concepts, oops concept has been improved in SAP ECC, and that is actually useful for the business. Also in ECC, you must heard about that NWBC, Net Viewer Business Client. Here you can see when you want to it's a kind of user interface. If you want to log into SAP, you need to log into your system. Then in that system you must have GUI screen from where you can put your login ID and password, and then you can log into the system. But let's say my company is having very as we discussed in yesterday's session is in 100 acres, okay, and there are some production lines who are actually very far away from the main office, right? And the people who are actually working over there, they want to also do the data entry in the system. So what they need to do, they need to come back to their office and need to log into the system, and then only is able they are able to put that data entry in the system. Because otherwise we need to set up one laptop or one computer over there where they can easily log in and these things. So what SAP said, like SAP came up in NetViewer business client. From anywhere the user can do the login to system through net. That is your site, that is www, that kind of if you are able to log in to the net at anywhere from your system by NetViewer business client, user will be able to log into the SAP directly. So that facilities were available in SAP ECC in 2004. Also SAP came up with best practices. Like when you are implementing SAP to any company, SAP said like, okay, this is the demo company and this is the best practice that you can study it. You can recommend the business, like rather doing that kind of processes, you should follow these kind of processes. Okay, this is the right manufacturing process, or this is the right process that business need to adapt wherever sometimes business is doing something wrong practices. So SAP recommends their own best practices in the ECC. So these kind of functionalities were available in ECC in 2004, and many companies actually adopted these functionalities. So till this point, maybe the SAP R3 and SAP ECC you must heard, and many of you are actually working. The people really right now, I have seen many companies are still working on SAP ECC, okay, because it came in 2012 and it's a 2020. Still, there are many companies who are actually working on SAP. Now, SAP fourth generation start. And what is that fourth generation? Is SAP S4 HANA. Now this is the big boom actually. Everyone want to go with SAP S4 HANA. So what is that? What SAP did in the fourth generation? At a very high level, SAP S4 HANA fourth generation, that what we are talking, was came actually in 2015. Okay, 2015, the first product by SAP came as, if you do remember, the version was version 1511. Okay, I'll just do one thing so that you will understand. Okay, that was the first version launched by SAP, that is SAP S4 HANA 1511. Then it came, the next version was 1610, then 1709, then 1809, and right now we are having 1909. So what is that actually? This 15 is year, this 11 is month. Okay, this is one of the certification question. Okay, in SAP S/4HANA, when you are doing any kind of certification, this question may be asked to you. Okay, so the SAP launched the first S/4HANA version in year 2015 in month of November. Then second version came up in 2016 month 10. Then 2017 9. Then 2018 9, and then 2019 09. Now we were expecting actually the next version in 20, like this month only, but maybe due to COVID situation or something, SAP, I don't know whether it's in a pipeline or something, but that I haven't seen like SAP is planning to do this thing right now. So in this version, just a minute, guys. So it's not like from 2004 to 2015, SAP did so many things, okay, in between that we will discuss in the next slide. What actually SAP did in this period, like it's around 10 years, okay. So SAP actually launched S4 HANA version in 2015, but before that, if you know, like there were so many things happen in HANA database that we will discuss in later. So the total journey for this product is actually, if you're talking at very high level, it was actually from 2010 to 2015. Although SAP launched first version in 2015, but from 2010 itself there was something, SAP worked on the different kind of database and SAP came up with some additional things. So what actually SAP did here, that we will discuss now. This is the most important thing that you should know as any SAP PP, MMSD consultant, whatever, what SAP did actually in SAP S/4HANA. And why? You see here it was calling as R2. Here it was calling as R3, then ECC. Now why SAP is saying it's a S4 HANA? Okay, that we will discuss. Now actually in SAP S4 HANA, it was still three-tier architecture system. Okay, presentation layer, application layer. SAP work on the database, and SAP changed the database to HANA database. Here, SAP was working on some traditional kind of database, but in this product, SAP changed the database itself. Okay. If you see here, your database, SAP never put the database name in the product. It was SAP R2. There was no name of database. It was SAP R3. There was no name of database. In ECC also, there was no name. SAP never talked about the database. But in SAP S/4HANA, especially SAP launched the product with database name. And why? Because this was the main thing that SAP did, and SAP want to acquire the market with this database. SAP launched database in 2010 only, okay, but SAP launched their product as a SAP S/4 HANA on 2015. In 2010, when SAP came up with this database, many other ERPs actually acquired this database and they appreciated this database because the database is having in-memory database is having very good performance that we discuss, and maybe in our next session we will discuss how SAP has did the very good performance in the SAP S/4HANA in detail, how SAP did the data footprint reduction and this thing. But at very high level, I'll just talk about if I'm having ECC system and I'm having a data around 600 GB. Okay, let's talk about 600 GB. It's not a correct figure, but I'm just giving an example. To run ECC, I need 600 GB database. The same data, same information, everything is same. If I'm moving from SAP ECC to SAP S/4HANA, it goes around this. I am not exactly sure, but around 8 GB data. So this much of data reduction happen in HANA database. Now, if you try to compare with an example, let's say you are having one mobile and mobile is having a RAM. Let's take an example of your laptop. Okay, laptop is having 4 GB of RAM, and you are having, let's say, 1 terabyte hard disk. Okay, and 1 terabyte of your data. When you are trying to pull the data from that database, it will take some time. But what will happen if you are having 8 GB RAM and 8 GB data? then it will be having a very good performance, very fast performance. And that's what actually SAP achieved in the SAP S/4HANA database. SAP successfully reduced the data from 1600 to 8 GB. There are different way to reduce it. Okay, I'm not going in that much technical. Maybe in our we will discuss in detail in our advanced session how actually SAP reduced the data from 600 to 8 GB by different ways. And that is why your HANA database was so much powerful as compared to your traditional database. And hence, when SAP launched data S/4HANA in 2010, many other ERP system like Oracle and these guys appreciated that database, and they actually use that database in their ERP system. Now the problem came up. SAP thought like, okay, we do have that kind of good database. Why we should not use in our ECC SAP? Then for that, actually it took around 4 to 5 years of time to convert our database, SAP ECC database, to SAP S/4HANA database. And then SAP came up with SAP S/4HANA as a separate product in 2015. Okay, in 2015, the SAP S/4HANA database was launched in 2010, but SAP started that database for his own product in 2015. Now, what happened in between these 4 years, that we will discuss in the next slide. Okay, before that, what I'll do, what exactly SAP did in this database, that we will discuss. Okay, so what we discussed, like changes in database, correct? I'll put it right. SAP did changes in the database, first thing. Okay, DB. Then it was actually Hana is SAP own DB. Earlier we said like SAP was using mainframe database, then SAP R3 was able to work on any kind of database, but this HANA was SAP's own database. Okay, SAP developed his own database with it's called in-memory database. What was the functionalities in this database? Why it is so much good and why it is having so much good performance? Because OLTP and OLAP available. Now, what is that OLTP and OLAP? See, if you see at any kind, any SAP system, your SAP system is just for online transaction processing. In SAP, what we are doing, what user is doing, daily how much production is done, create production order, do confirmation, do goods issue, do goods receipt, right? So in ECC or in SAP R3, user used to do only online transaction in that. And your ECC or your R3 was not that good system to give you analytical processing. The reporting wise, if you're talking about R3 or R2 or ECC, okay, we do have ALV reports available, but these reports are really not that good. In our yesterday's session also we discussed, when I'm doing MRP run, system is proposing me some proposals, and user need to go to MD04 or MD05 to analyze what was the proposals. And for user it's very hard to analyze what exactly the proposal, what was the requirement, how system did the calculation, because your ECC system or your SAP system is just a online transaction processing tool. Then what happened about OLTP? How we used to get the report, different kind of dashboards and this thing. In ECC, we discuss here, there were SRM, CRM, APO. Also, we do have business intelligence, right? BW, this kind of reporting to modules. We need to implement that module, get the data out from SAP database, put it to the BI system, and then develop the report and give it to the business back. So your ECC system, the current 3-tier architecture what we do have, that was not capable enough to produce or to give the data reports or analytics to the business user. That is why we used to call our SAP system, SAP ECC system, or just online transaction processing system and not a OLAP, analytical processing system. For that OLAP, we need to implement BI and BW different modules. But in SAP S/4HANA, the database was so much powerful that SAP successfully implement your BI and BW on the same database. Okay, here also why SAP came up with seven different modules, APO, SCM, BI, different module, and SAP is saying, okay, you can purchase the license and implement the tool. Initially, I was thinking SAP is doing business. Okay, and that is the real fact, like everybody want to do the business. So my understanding was also the same, like what we have, like SAP was doing the business. Every time SAP is coming with some different modules, if anything additional functionality if I want to implement, SAP is saying, okay, for that we do have a different module, APO. I want to do constant planning. Okay, that planning is not available in SAP ECC or R3. For that you need to go with some additional module. Then I am saying, okay, I need some analytical report or dashboard. SAP is saying, okay, you can do this, but for that you need to go with BI module. So I was thinking SAP is trying to sell the modules and do the business. This is real, actually SAP want to do the business, but the basic fundamental reason behind that was the SAP database was not that good enough where I can implement your BI module on the same database. And that is why SAP was saying, okay, if you want to implement these modules, you need to purchase a separate database, you need to purchase a separate box where you can implement it, and you can simply plug in that module to your ECC and do the reporting. In SAP S4HANA, SAP actually worked on the database, change the database, everything, all the load codings, all the programs, all the transactions, everything has been changed, okay, based on the database, because SAP successfully reduced the data from 1600 to 8 GB. Your database is now very, very powerful. And now with online transaction, you can implement any kind of module in SAP S4HANA database. Okay. Now APO has been replaced with IBP module. Like the SAP also came up with some additional modules with some additional functionalities. Okay. So this is the main thing in SAP S4HANA. Like now OLTP, online transaction processing, and online application processing, analytic processing is available in your SAP S4HANA database. That means now if you look here with this product, this is nothing but your database. You are saying your this new fourth generation is good only because of your database. And that is why SAP put the name of database in the product itself and start selling this. That's why SAP is saying now is SAP S4 HANA. Then what additional things came up with this module? This fourth generation planning engine. That's what we discussed in our last session. There was having a MRP engine in SAP ECC, R3, R2 everywhere. SAP came with MRP live planning engine because here business was getting some static result because of the database problem. We used to run it as a night time. Now SAP came up with very powerful database, and now SAP is saying, okay, you can run your MRP at any point in time. Okay, that is the additional thing. Also, SAP came with SAP S4 HANA with agile methodology. Okay, you must know about the agile methodology. Okay, and we will discuss in the next maybe next topic what is agile, how SAP is recommending to go ahead with agile methodology. Those who are actually working on the SAP and who actually work as a part of SAP implementation project, we used to have a SAP methodology for implement any kind of project where we are first doing the business blueprint, then realization, then user testing and all that things. Okay, now SAP is saying, okay, since we do have SAP S4 HANA, don't use that kind of old implementation methodology. Use agile methodology where SAP came up with best practices. Okay, in these best practices, what SAP did, SAP gives you, when we are saying you must start about the sandbox system, development system, then quality system and production system. In the sandbox system, SAP came up with the best practices. You can directly run the scenarios in the system as per standard SAP, and you can directly show it to the business. Okay, instead of doing data gathering, business blueprint, then realization, and then unit testing. So you are involving your user at very later pointing of the time, and maybe that time user is saying, hey, I really don't want this kind of implementation, I want something else, I want this process should be like this. Until that time, it's a big time that you have already gone. Okay, again you need to go back, change the business blueprint, change the configuration, and again you need to do. So what SAP is recommending, instead of doing involving business user at later pointing time, this is the best practices available in SAP. You just implement, try to show it on a first day, just show to the business like how SAP is working, this is what SAP is providing, and then business will be able to give you the right input. Maybe The if your business wants something else which actually SAP is not able to provide, in that case you can simply do the fit and gap analysis and start continuously implementing. It's kind of continuous improvement. So this is actually what SAP came up with SAP S/4HANA. There are so many things that we will discuss in the next screen. But before going ahead, I just want to know if you have any kind of doubts on SAP R2 to R3, then R3 to ECC, then ECC to SAP S/4HANA. You conceptually, whether you are okay with that or you are having any doubt, you can raise your hand and you can ask your question. Anyone? Before going to next topic.
Yeah, in S/4HANA, do we need to have the Fiori inbuilt, or it's an optional thing that the user want to have the Fiori apps they can use, or they can use the direct HANA system?
Okay. Very good. Okay. First thing you must understand, like Fiori application. Fiori is one of the user interface. Okay. The same way the GUI screen. What do you have? GUI screen where you are able to log into the system, right? The same way Fiori is the user interface that was available in ECC as well as in SAP S/4HANA also. Okay. Now what happened in ECC? There was a Fiori application available, but these application, like let's say I want to create the production order. To create production order, the in GUI transaction code is CO01. The Fiori application also having the same kind of screen, same kind of functionality. If you are going to Fiori and you are logging to the Fiori create production order, it will give you the exactly same look and feel. Okay, that means Fiori was there also in SAP S/4HANA. What SAP actually did, this Fiori is nothing but that application should be that matured or that good enough that user can simply log into iPad or mobile and user can be able to do that transaction. Okay, if you look into your HTML transaction or HTML Fiori application, if let's say CO01 screen, if you are logging from mobile, it will having in the left corner there is a material, in the right corner somewhere you need to drag and scroll the mobile and this thing, and then you can be able to play that transaction. So that was not that user friendly transaction that you can do that do run that transaction in the mobile. So in SAP S/4HANA, what SAP did, since database was also good, SAP also worked on the Fiori applications and launched a couple of Fiori application, additional Fiori applications. Like in CO01, the application which was available in the ECC and the same application that is available in SAP S/4HANA is totally different. The screen, look and feel, that user can easily, play the transaction through mobile or iPad or something. Okay, that kind of application SAP launched in the SAP S/4HANA. Now the question is, whether it's a mandatory to take it. SAP S/4HANA 1909 is the fully loaded package of Fiori application. When you are buying the license for SAP S/4HANA 1909, all Fiori applications will be there with free. The same way when you are buying the SAP ECC, you do have all applications free, but that is not that user friendly, and that is the reason many companies and the many business actually don't really love that application to use it. But when SAP came up with SAP S/4HANA in the first 1511, SAP came up with some additional applications. Okay, still the business and the people are not that much happy. SAP continuously improving the Fiori application. If you see here, SAP S/4HANA version is upgrading every year. Okay, every year SAP S/4HANA version is upgrading, but the Fiori SAP was upgrading quarterly. In year 3 times SAP was upgrading the Fiori. Like in 1909 also, 3 versions came up that we will discuss in the next screen. Although my on-premises version, SAP S/4HANA version, is upgrading every year, but on my cloud version, where actually the Fiori applications are built, is upgrading 3 times in a year. So SAP is continuously working on the Fiori application and proposing the business to use Fiori application instead of GUI. So when you are purchasing the license for SAP S/4HANA for any version, your Fiori application will be totally free for you. Okay, so it's a mandatory or not mandatory is based on the business. If business is really want to use the Fiori application, is always good to go. Many people still, I have seen in my last company, we implemented SAP 1909, okay, but still people and the user are actually working on GUI screen. So it's a consultant job actually, where consultant need to explore that Fiori application first. Okay, need to tell business, hey, instead of going to the GUI screen and playing MD01 transaction, there is a very beautiful application, material coverage application. Just go there and see it here. You will get so much information which is not actually available in MD04. And now I have seen so many companies or so many business actually, the for user they don't have GUI screen available on their laptop or on their machine. They just give them the Fiori application login, okay, where user used to play each and every transaction with Fiori application. So in SAP S/4HANA, your Fiori application is always fully loaded and it's a free. You no need to pay separate cost for that. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
thank you. Yeah, thank you. And they can use both at the same time,
Yes,
right?
yes, they can
If
use
they're
both.
multiple users,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes, definitely.
Data
Basically,
will be synced.
everything will be the HANA database. Okay. When you are logging through GUI, it's again going to HANA database and playing the transaction for you, right? If you are logging through Fiori application, it's again going to the GUI and doing. Also, you can use the NetViewer business client also. If you don't have logon pad, if you don't have Fiori application link, you can play the transaction through NetViewer business client. So basically, if you talk about the Fiori application, why SAP is recommending to go with Fiori? See, in any project you must seen like somewhere when we are implementing, the major thing is to install the login pad to that user system first thing. Then you need to assign so many different transaction code authorizations and this thing, and you need to give the training how to play the transaction in the system. When he is going to MD0 sorry, login pad and login with user ID password, he will get some different kind of blue screen and he will get confused like what to do next. He need to remember all the transaction code, how to create production order CO01, how to create material MM01, how to create bill of material CS01, right? He need to remember all the transaction or put it somewhere. But if instead of that, if I'm giving the Fiori login pad to that user, he no need to remember any transaction. First thing, all the transaction what he is processing, that will be in front of him. First thing, he can simply click on that tab and it will go inside. Second thing, in GUI when you are playing the transaction, sometimes you will get confused now what to do. User will get always confused now what next he has to do. Okay, and he need to remember all the steps and all that thing. We need to train the user. But in Fiori application, it's like same mobile application what right now we are using, where there are different kind of application. And if you see any any new application when you are installing on your mobile, nobody is there who actually telling you how to use it, right? You itself able to do and explore the application and do the things over there. Why? Because that application itself is telling you what you need to do next. The same kind of application SAP launched in the Fiori, okay, where when user is going to, let's say, the your material coverage application, it will simply see, okay, this is my current stock, this is my shortages. In that shortages there will be the red line saying, okay, this is the shortages that you are not able to fulfill. Then user, there will be next tab available, hey, create purchase requisition. That means this application itself telling that business user what you need to do next, right? That facility is not available in ECC or in R3. In R3, you need to check the stock in MB52. Again, if you feel like, okay, stock is less, then you need to go to ME21N and create the purchase order, right? So these are the different transaction that user has to play, and user will always get confused to do that. But in Fiori, it's very easy for the user that to play what he has to do next. And the training wise also, you don't need to give much more efforts to train user on that application. That is why SAP always recommends, if you are working on SAP S/4HANA 1909 or any version, just use Fiori application. That we will discuss what kind of different application, how to use it, how to explore it, how to identify it. Because as I said, every year SAP is coming with additional applications, additional changes in the Fiori applications, right? In three times is upgrading. So how to do and analyze this application, that we will discuss in later. But at very high level, SAP S/4HANA packages with your Fiori applications loaded, that you can easily implement and convince business to use that. Okay. Okay, anything else apart from that?
Yeah, I just have a one question. Like
Yes.
in every version, there is two two kind of thing. One is on-premise and one is the cloud version. Okay. So if I'm purchasing the license of cloud version, so in that case, the Fiori is available, and as well as the GUI will also be available. Means I can access both the
Yes.
I can access both the system. So why people are nowadays, means I have seen in some of the clients, they are preferring more to go onto the cloud version rather than going onto on-premise version.
Yes, yes.
Why
Okay.
is it so?
Okay. What we will do in our next slide, we will discuss about the cloud version and your premise on premises, as well as we will discuss about the private cloud also. Okay. So till time, just hold the question. It's very, I mean, it's not that rocket science Wi-Fi people is actually using. Actually, it's a management of database, basically, if I'm talking about. Okay, we will discuss in detail. See, if I'm going with cloud version, the database will be managed by, let's say, third party. If I'm going with private version, database will be managed by third party. If I'm going with cloud version, database will be managed by SAP itself. And if you are going with your personal on premises, all your database and everything will need to manage by you. So ultimately, if I'm going with cloud version, my cost of hardware, right, the cost of managing the data, upgrading the data, that will get reduced. That is why many of the companies actually prefer to go with cloud version. That we will discuss in the next slide. Okay, but at a high level, this is the actual major reason behind that. Anything in this about the generation shift that you can ask now? Anyway, that point I'll cover in the next slide. Okay.
I just want to ask one more thing. In S4 HANA, SSC will also be means embedded part of S4 HANA?
No, no, no. ECC itself.
No, not ECC. SSC I'm talking about.
Yes, SC. You are talking about
SAP
vendor
Analytics
portal.
Cloud. No, SAP Analytics Cloud.
SAP Analytic Cloud. Okay.
Yeah.
So see, actually, I'm also not that much aware about that. But if you are saying it's an analytic cloud and this thing, that means kind of Fiori application. Okay. If that is the Fiori application, there are still some of the Fiori application or still some of the product. Although you are purchasing SAP S4 HANA license, you need to pay add-on packages for that. So I'm actually not really aware about SAP. You can keep your question on the forum. I'll try to get that information from our expert. Okay. But if it's an add-on package, then definitely you need to pay separately. If not, then it will be available in your SAP S4 HANA package.
Okay.
Because recently I worked on one of the SSC tool and that of the vendor portal. So I was getting confused. No problem. Okay. Now I'll move to the next topic. That is the product journey to SAP S4 HANA. Now in this, what we discuss, SAP switch the gear from R2 to R3, R3 to SAC, ECC to S4 HANA. And SAP come up with SAP S4 HANA in 2015, the first product, that is 1511. But as we discussed, SAP was actually working on SAP S4 HANA database since 2010 to 2015. Now we will discuss about this thing. Now, in this, even me also, when I was actually very new to the SAP Simple Logistics and HANA, I was always getting confused between different terminologies. Right? It's a HANA. Somewhere it is calling as S4 HANA. Right? I'm sorry. It's calling as S4 HANA. Then some people actually called as suit on HANA. Right? Some people call as simple finance. Then on cloud, the same question what you ask, right? What is on cloud? What is on premise? This kind of terminologies are there. Also, there is one more. That's what is the simple logistics, right? Then central finance also is one of the thing. Just central finance. Then sidecar. Okay, the people who actually work on the technical part, they must know about the side. They know about the side. Also, BW on HANA, business warehouse on HANA. So these kind of different terminologies are there in SAP S4 HANA. So what is the meaning of that? Okay. Still, if in many interviews, like right now in our project, we used to take an interview for 1909 implementation, and the people are saying, okay, I have already worked on SAP 1909. And when I'm asking him, like, what is suit on HANA and what is SAP S/4HANA, they are not able to answer it. Although they are the functional consultant, they no need to have that much information, but at very high level, they should know what are these different products. Why somewhere is calling as S/4HANA, why somewhere it is calling as sidecar, why somewhere it is calling as suit on HANA. So what is the difference in that? All difference and these things will be lie in these 4 years. And we actually are not actually migrated or not adopted this SAP S/4HANA practice, and that is why we are right now not able to answer the question for that the different terminologies. Okay, we will discuss at very high level about this thing so that most of the things will get clear. And after this session, if someone is asking anything about that, you will be able to answer, okay, what is the difference in this kind of terminology. Okay, so what I'll do here, I will just put one thing arrow. Okay, let's say this is the journey of HANA. I'm putting this arrow and I'm putting it with some. Okay, we discussed in 2010 actually, SAP came up with database HANA, right? So what actually SAP did over here, SAP just launched one database and the database name was HANA. SAP actually worked on the database. SAP launched one new database. It's called HANA in 2010. It was the very first. It was not a product. It was product by SAP, but it was not actually used for SAP ECC system. SAP launched one database. It's a HANA, and it was an in-memory database. It was most powerful database. What was inside that? We discussed at very high level. Like SAP was able to improve the performance by reducing the data from 1600 GB to HDB, right? And there are some data reduction things happen and all that things that we will discuss in our detailed scenario. But SAP actually launched this product in 2010, and many of the other ERP system actually acquired and adopted this database, and they were very happy because the database was very strong, right? Because of the performance. Then in 2012, SAP actually came up with a new product, and that is like in 2010 to 12, SAP was thinking, okay, our database is really good. How we can use for our in-house product? And SAP thought how we can use it, but there was so many challenges. Like SAP was not simply going and changing the database and going with SAP S/4HANA, because our ECC and R3 logics and algorithms and calculations and all coding was written with that traditional database. If you want to change the database itself, you need to do so many simplifications in your coding. Like in the next day, if I'm telling you, hey, tomorrow onwards you are not able to do MM01 to create the material, it's something else, then all people will get, or the people who are actually working on that ECC system will get confused and they will not able to digest the things also. So in 2012, first time SAP came up with one product, that is SAP BW powered by HANA. Okay, I'll put this. What was that we will discuss. So what happened in 2012? Actually, SAP came with BW. What we discussed, our ECC tool was online transaction processing tool, right? And anytime if I want to do any kind of reporting or something, I need to go with BW and BI, right? Where what we are used to do, we used to do the plugin interface with BI BW tool, and BW tool used to pull the data from ECC database, do the calculation, and populate the report. Now, what SAP thought, like first we should work on the reporting part. Since our database is very good, we can implement the BI BW tool separately. Instead of going to the database, try to pull the data to HANA database and then perform the report, so that it will be much more faster than the current one. So ultimately, SAP was able to do the real time analytics by this tool, right? Why it's a real-time analytics I'm talking about? Whenever there is a data, whenever there is any information I needed from SAP ECC, if you remember in BI or BW, what we used to do, we used to run the program, right? In that program, we used to copy the data from ECC or any your ECC R3 system to the BI tool, and from that BI tool we used to populate the report. Let's say I'm running program now, okay, today's program now. I'm pulling the data today. Now in the tomorrow's morning, if someone is looking the data in BW, it could be different, because in this whole night there might be some data changes in the SAP ECC, but that data is not available there in your BI, right? So it was not a real time. But with this tool, when SAP plug in the BW with SAP HANA database, it was the real time analytics, and business was able to get the data real time on that part. Okay, then in 2013, after 1 year of time, in 2013, I'll put here, SAP came up with one more product, that is SAP, I'll put here like SAP Business Suite powered by HANA. Now, what is that business suite? And it's called SAP SOH, Suite on HANA. What is that? That we will discuss in detail. Okay. Then we will go. I'll put all the versions here first, and then we will discuss one by one. I'll give one different color for that. Then in 2014, after 1 year, SAP again came up with some additional product. Sorry, 2014. SAP came up with Simple Finance. You must heard about this Simple Finance, I'm sure, because this was one of the hottest product what SAP was, and SAP actually got a very big boom here. And from that product only, SAP actually got the big success in the HANA. That is, sorry, Control Z. I'll see here Simple Finance. Finance. Okay. What is that Simple Finance? That we will discuss then. If you are able to understand this all thing, then you will definitely understand the last one, that is in 2015 SAP launched a separate product. In between there was a Simple Logistics also, okay, but I'm not saying it's a Simple Logistic. SAP directly came up with SAP S4 HANA, which was having separate product actually, which was having Simple Finance as well as Simple Logistic. So when you are talking about SAP S4HANA Simple Finance, that was the SAP product. But Simple Logistics was not a separate product that SAP has launched. SAP launched the product as a SAP S4HANA directly. Now we will discuss in detail so that you will understand what is the difference in between all these functionalities. Okay, I'll give some different color for that. Okay, and that Simple Finance, sorry, the SAP S4HANA was launched by SAP in 2015 in the month of 11, first version of 15.11, right? In 2015-11. Now let's talk about this thing. SAP did the changes in the database. SAP created a new database. It was not actually for SAP itself. Okay, it was the database. SAP tried to do some modification in the database and try to improve the performance with this HANA database by in-memory database by using that kind of technology. SAP developed one database that was very good database, and many other ERP system started using that. Then SAP thought like how we can use this database for ourselves, right? So then SAP thought like, okay, launch one product as a SAP BW. In between, what happened? In between, I'll just put these things here so that you will understand. In between, what happened? SAP was thinking how we can use this data for our ECC. SAP was having ECC product, and for that ECC, we were having a different kind of any database. I'm putting here like any database, okay, like mainframe or something. So okay, just a minute. Any database, right? And it was interlinked with each other. That's fine. Now SAP was thinking, okay, this database is fine, although the system is slow, but whenever I need to get any reporting, I need to implement SAP BI/BW, and I need to get the data from this database to BI and need to do the calculation and give it back to the system. And we are able to do this kind of things in the night time or maybe once in a day. So I'm not able to get the real time analytics for that reports also. So SAP thought first thing like how to do it. For that, what SAP did, SAP came up with one additional tool, that is SLT, okay, System Landscape Transformation, okay, where we can pull the data, punch the data, whatever user are punching the data in ECC, that also SAP was able to pull data to the SAP, as well as from the database also, we were able to pull the data by the system transformation tool. And finally, just a minute, I'm having some, okay. Then what SAP did, SAP put that data in the HANA DB. What SAP did, get the data from current system by using SLT tool, pull the data to HANA DB, is a real time, okay? And then I'll just give it here like this so that it will be more understanding. Just a minute, guys. Okay, pull the data from ECC database by using SLT tool, keep it to the HANA database. Now, what is HANA database? HANA database is actually having the functionality of OLAP, analytical processing, correct? And your ECC was having the functionality of having only OLTP, where user, TP, where user used to put the data, punch the data and everything, data entry here. SLT tool used to copy the data from that database, put it into the HANA database, which is actually more powerful what we were talking about earlier, right? And from that database, what SAP is saying, now you can develop your BI functionality here, okay? Instead of linking that BI to your database, in earlier we used to link our BI tool, BI, right? BI tool to the traditional database. What SAP is saying now, you can connect this BI tool with, with HANA DB, what we are actually, and get the reporting. Now, my HANA database is very powerful, very good in performance. So when I'm pulling the data from any database to BI tool, it will take some performance issue, right? If I'm running a report for, let's say, 1 year production or let's say last 3 years of production data, it took a big time. And if I'm creating some dashboards or something, some colorful dashboard in the BI, it took, when I'm user is punching the request to that application, it took a very big time, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, that kind of time. Sometimes I have seen, like, we used to run the report in the BI in the night time, and then we used to get the data in the morning time. That kind of things were happening because of the database issue. Okay, now SAP has created a very good database, that is HANA. And now SAP first thing like, okay, now at least my online application process or online analytical processing, that at least we can pull it to the HANA database so that we can get the information very easy and fast, right? It's a reporting tool I'm talking, okay? Report or dashboards, that functionality. Okay. Now this kind of thing or this kind of scenario is nothing but SAP called it as a sidecar. Many company, when SAP came up with HANA database and many other ERP systems started using this HANA database in the 2010 to 12, many companies actually use this sidecar scenario where we used to pull the data from traditional database to HANA database, and your BI and BW tool will be attached to that HANA database to get the output. So this is nothing but your sidecar. Okay. Also, it call as a HANA Live also. Okay, guys, this used to call it as a HANA Live. If you many people actually use some different kind of terminologies for that. So it also used to call it as a HANA Live tool. That means nothing but the sidecar where your BIBW application or a BIBW module or tool will be attached to your HANA database. Actual working is still working with ECC. Actual processing is still happening with ECC. Only what we are doing, we are trying to pull the data from ECC database to HANA database. And from HANA database, we are actually giving the reporting to the business. So that's how SAP started using HANA database for their in-house product. First thing. Guys, any question on the sidecar before moving ahead to the next next topic?
Can you please repeat the full form of SLT?
System landscape transformation. It's a tool actually. It's
Okay.
kind of SLT tool available in SAP, and now this is really available in right now. It's not actually used because your HANA SAP S4 HANA is embedded everything. Now you no need to pull the data from here to there. Okay, that when we will discuss our SAP S4 HANA and SAP ECC database. Okay, that time we may need to discuss more about SLT, but that will be in the advanced training. That really for a PP consultant, we no need to have that much of information. But that's
Oh.
how SAP designed the sidecar at very high level.
So this integration of HANA database with the ECC or any other database, that is Oracle or mainframe, through SLT tool, that is basically done by with whom? For PI
Basis.
right?
No, we do have
Basis.
a basis consultant, and we do have now HANA security consultant and basis consultant.
Okay,
Very,
I thought it's a PI consultant.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
So this is not a functional topic, but at a very high level, we need to understand when we are sitting in any meeting as a PP consultant, let's say, and people are talking about, okay, we will use sidecar. We should not be getting blank. Okay, it's nothing but we are still using SAP ECC. Only your reporting will be happen through SAP S/4HANA, correct? So that it will get a fast results. So that's what SAP actually used, give that functionality in 2010, 2010 to 12 and 13. This period, actually, many companies, still companies are those companies who are actually working on ECC, not yet migrated, upgraded to SAP S/4HANA. These may be companies still working on this sidecar scenario. Okay. Then SAP came out with additional tool where what we are talking like is a suite on HANA. That's what we discuss now. No, sorry, sidecar. Now SAP came up with suite on HANA. What is that actually? That we will discuss. Okay. Now here, SAP was saying, okay, we should still use the SAP ECC with any database, transfer it to HANA, give it back to the reporting tool. Instead of that, in 2013, basically what happened, SAP was able to do this thing. SAP was able to this thing. Now you can easily understand what is suite on HANA. This is nothing but my suite on HANA. Okay, just a minute. In 2013, SAP was able to do this thing where your transaction processing, okay, still people are still using MD01, okay. Just a minute. I think Tejas, could you please, I can see something from your end is showing on my system. Okay, good. Thanks, Tejas. Okay. In 2013, what SAP did, instead of using this SAP tool and get the data outside and again do the reporting, SAP said, okay, in the front end, you can use ECC system, but in the back end, instead of going to any database, just pull the data to HANA database. And from here, you can do your reporting. This is nothing but your suite on HANA. Okay, just see the difference. Okay, you will be able to understand it. This is nothing but your suite on HANA. I'll put here SOH, where SAP actually changed the database from any the traditional database. SAP changed the database to HANA, and that's the reason your OLTP and OLAP at the same place now. You no need to go with some other database and pull the data. You can still working on ECC system, you can still working on MD01 transaction, you can still play the same transaction and same thing, but the database is HANA, from where you can be able to easily get the reporting. That's what SAP did in 2013. Now SAP was still working on the same thing, same modifications continuously. Ultimately, what actually we achieved, SAP achieved here, it's improved the performance and data footprint reduction. So I'll put here one additional comment so that you will be, get it. What actually SAP achieved in Suite on HANA? Improved performance, right? I'll put some, okay. SAP was able to improve the performance by using the Suite or HANA. Also, data footprint reduction, right? SAP was able to reduce the data footprint from 600 GB to 8 GB directly, and also now you no need to have a sidecar here, correct? So this thing we achieved, SAP achieved in SAP Suite on HANA. Still SAP was not happy. SAP was thinking, okay, we do have that much of good database, that much of good thing, we should have something else, we should do something else. Then in 2014, SAP came up with simple finance module. What actually happened here, database is ECC, S4HANA, front-end system is ECC, but SAP started doing some simplifications only for finance. Okay, guys, that's once you go to the S4HANA, then you will come to know what is that. First, SAP launched the product as a simple finance. That means it's on top of your Suite on HANA. Okay, it was on top of your Suite on HANA, where front end is still ECC, database is still HANA, but within the ECC, only your finance part, I'll put here. FI. Oh, sorry. Just a minute. FI. What SAP did? SAP did the improvement within your ECC for only finance part. HANA is still this one. So altogether, still the functional consultant, those who are working as a SAP PP consultant, they still used to run MD01. They still used to do the same kind of MRP area. They still used to do the same kind of configuration. Only in finance, there are some modifications, okay, that happen. Basically, in the finance is the module where actually the business is looking for that kind of WAS reporting, right? And that's why maybe SAP decided to go ahead with finance modification. SAP did the changes in your finance and launch the separate product as a simple finance. So you must heard like many time the people, those who are working as SAP PP consultant on this, they are saying, hey, then in SAP S4HANA, there is nothing new for me. Okay, this is only the standard system, same like ECC. I no need to do the course for that. I don't want to do anything because whatever I'm doing in ECC, exactly same there is in SAP S4HANA. But that statement was true only till 2014. Okay, because in 2000 till 2014 SAP launched the separate product for SAP Simple Finance. Then SAP thought like, now we do have everything available, now we need to do the simplifications in logistics module also. And SAP is thought like, okay, do the modifications in the logistics module. But that time, instead of launching a separate product as Simple Logistics, SAP launched directly S4 HANA as a separate product in 2015. What does that now? If you try to do the thing same here, I'll put like this, okay? Sorry. SAP launch S4 HANA. Oh, sorry. This is nothing but S4 HANA separate product having simple finance as well as simple logistics as well as everything. So now there is no ECC. This is my S4 HANA. Your database is also S4 HANA and your front end is also S4 HANA now. That is launched in 1511, the first product. Then SAP did more modifications in your simplifications. There are some bug fixings. Every year it is coming up. Some additional Fiori application, some additional functionalities are coming up. Then 1511 to 1610, then 1610 to 1709, 1809, and now 1909 is the fully loaded S4 HANA package available in the market. Many companies are actually migrating to the S4 HANA. Why? Because SAP is saying now your ECC system is very old system, okay, and all company who are working on SAP, they should migrate to SAP S4 HANA. Otherwise, what SAP is planning, SAP was planning actually till 2025. Okay, maybe in next 5 years, your ECC product or the support for ECC will be get closed by SAP. So this is the right time actually. Each company is also migrating to S4 HANA. So that's the reason there you can see in the market there are so many requirements for SAP S4 HANA implementation. Many companies are switching from ECC to HANA. So what is the advantages of that SAP S4 HANA? Performance, this thing that I do agree. Okay, performance is good, these things is good, but what else? What else is, if I want to do some advanced planning in the ECC, I need to purchase a separate APO tool, correct? If I want to do the BI and this kind of reporting, I need to go and purchase the separate license. Although license and separate box, separate hardware for that. Now in SAP S4HANA, what SAP is saying, all these tools that you are able to do plugin in SAP ECC, if I'm talking, go back to here, this plugin interfaces, now you can embed it to SAP S4 HANA. You no need to have a separate box for that. On the same HANA database, you can assign it. You no need to, purchase a separate hardware for that and implement that kind of. So these are the advantages in SAP S4 HANA database. And that's why many companies now switching from your ECC to S4 HANA. And the first product is 1511. Now guys, if I'll ask you, what is sidecar? What is suite on HANA? What is SAP S4 HANA? You should be able to answer these questions. What is HANA? HANA is just database. What is BW HANA? What is simple finance? What is simple logistics? What is sidecar? What is suite on HANA? What is S4 HANA? S4 HANA is now the latest product. Latest version is 1509. I'll stop here for a minute to know if you have any kind of questions on the product journey of S4 HANA. This is very basics that we are discussing here, okay? And as a PP consultant, we should know these kind of things at least. Okay, guys, any question? You can unmute and you can ask. Okay, fine. Now, what I'll do, I'll go ahead, and there was one question from one of the participants about on-premises and cloud and this kind of functionality, right? So I'll try to explain you, okay? So let's say, I'll put it here, okay? This is SAP S4 HANA, okay? Just a minute so that you will understand what.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one question. Like, as you said that the APO or the APO has been replaced by now the
IBP.
IBP and
Yes.
okay, so that is inbuilt in our S4 HANA server, whichever we are going to purchase. Okay, but still the licensing cost is there, right?
Yes, definitely. You are correct. So any add-on package or any add-on version, when you are purchasing from the SAP, you need to pay the licensing cost. What you can reduce? You can reduce your infrastructure cost. You can reduce your plugin cost, which you actually need to do. Also, if you try to correlate the things, if I'm having APO, let's take an example, and I'm having, let's say, SAP S4 HANA, you are still able to interface your APO with S4 HANA without using IBP also. But in that case, you need to purchase a separate server and separate infra for that, right? Also, there will be the data reduction, redundant data, right? You are creating plan order in APO. Same plan order will be moved by SIP to SAP, right? So there is a redundant data. Same plan order will be available in both the system, right? If you are going with inbuilt or inbuilt system like IBP, that will be available in own data, only one database, right? So that is the more advantageous, like to go ahead with SAP IBP instead of going with SAP APO. And even I also heard, like in some of the pre-sale activities I was involved, okay, the people, the business who actually interested to go with SAP S/4HANA, they are not actually going ahead with SAP APO. What they are saying, okay, first phase they are implementing SAP S/4HANA. In the second phase, they are replacing APO with IBP. That's what they are actually doing. Ultimately, it's reducing the cost, right? But licensing cost is still there. Yes,
Okay,
you're
I have a confusion. Like the IBP is replaced by SOP, right?
no,
SOP.
no, 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 no. SOP is sales operation planning, okay,
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
and that sales operation planning is still available in your ECC, still available in your SAP S/4HANA. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what happened in SOP? If you see what is SOP, SOP is actually working on based on your last historic data. It proposes you the future plan, right? And it's not that much correct. The basic drawback of SOP is in any company, the forecasting what you did is around 60 to 70% correct. It's not more than that. That's why we used to implement SAP, but it's not actually used. Still, business user has to play manually something with that proposed data and used to do it. Now, because there are some restrictions in SAP. Now, what happened? For that kind of tool, there was APO tool available where we can do the constraint based planning, constraint based forecasting, and all that things. That tool was available in APO. It's called PPDS, then DDMRP. Now DDMRP is the Hana part. Demand planning, PPDS, GATP. This functionality was available in APO. Now, what happened when SAP came up with SAP S/4HANA? SAP S/4HANA is the fully loaded package, and now SAP don't want go back to SAP APO and do the modifications. So SAP created a separate module in SAP S/4HANA as SAP IBP, where your DDMRP is part of SAP S/4HANA, but your PPDS, right? GATP has been replaced with now AATP. So these kind of additional functionality, even in GATP also, if you really work on the APO module, GATP is having still some problems or still some drawbacks. SAP tried to remove that kind of problems and drawbacks, come up with some additional functionality in IBP module. And now SAP recommends rather going to SOP or APO, implement IBP and do whatever you want, right? So it's not a replacement of SAP SOP. SOP has not replaced by SAP IBP. Both planning methodologies are still available in SAP S/4HANA. IBP is also there, SOP is also there. Now it's a business decision. If they are not really doing the forecasting at that extent level, don't go ahead and implement IBP. You can still have SOP available. Still you have your flexible planning, still your constraint planning, or that planning is still available in the SAP S/4HANA also. So SOP is still the part of your system. It's up to the business whether to use SOP or whether to use IBP PPDS.
Okay, okay. So
Okay.
previously there was another server box in which the APO, then
Yes.
SNP and GATP were there,
Yes.
but
Yes.
now it's embedded into the S4 HANA server itself.
Correct.
So
For that, IBP
yeah, so
module
we
is there.
can implement the functionality. Just that we need to means we need
Purchase
to
the
have the
license.
purchase the license server.
Correct.
And anyways,
Correct.
the for IBP also, I think there is some another means some screen or some licensing need to be
Yeah.
purchased.
Yeah. 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 Right. You are
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything? Okay. Private cloud. Okay, just one of the participant actually asked what is the difference in that. I am actually trying to explain as per my understanding. Okay, so this is my SAP S/4HANA. SAP S/4HANA is available on premises version as well as public cloud as well as private cloud. Okay, so what is the basic difference in this? Let's talk about on premise. your on-premise version is upgrading yearly. When I'm taking a S/4HANA on-premise version, the version is getting upgrading per year, like 1709, 1909, right? 1809. And in this 2020, actually, it was supposed to upgrade, but new version is not yet there. So it's actually updating or upgrading, okay, yearly. Okay. The database, what we are talking about here, the database and infrastructure for that data, okay, in our own premise. This is your on-premise version. You need to set up the server in your company where your database and infra, everything will be available. This is the basic on-premise. Every company actually use this kind of, many companies actually use, not every, many companies actually work on this on-premise version. Then what is public cloud? The public cloud is your updating, I will say rather yearly, I'll say quarterly. What actually they are upgrading? Any bug fixes. Any bug fixes are there, that is getting upgraded. Now, what will happen if there is some bug fixes that we found after implementation of one premises? What we used to do, we used to upgrade the patch. We are not actually converting from 1809 to 1909. In between, if there are some additional things are coming, SAP release the notes, we used to update the notes right in between. But if you are using cloud, you no need to update the notes over there. Okay, because after 3 months anyway, whatever bug fixes, whatever new applications are coming, that will get automatically update quarterly, because it's upgrading quarterly. Now here the subscription, I'll say here like this, subscription mode, okay, I'll say mode will be from SAP, okay, and the database and the infrastructure and everything will be owned by SAP. Now you no need to take care about the database and this thing. But then what SAP is doing? SAP is owning the database, but still SAP gives you the authority to do the personalization. Okay. Personalization of database plus your master data, that you can go and create your master data by your own. Although database is with SAP, right? Also your configuration, that part will be with you. But the basic database and infrastructure will be with SAP. That is the public cloud. And what is private cloud? There is one more thing that is available, that is private cloud. That is the same, that is that is also upgrading quarterly. Okay, so your license you need to just purchase from SAP. Here, not subscription, you need to purchase license from SAP, and you can, this will be always with you. But the database and infrastructure, what we are talking about, which is here with SAP, you can give it to any third party. Any third party will manage the database and infrastructure. You just purchase the license from SAP. It will be getting upgrade same like your public cloud. Your personalization and master data will be still with you. I'll say here own, so that it will be more understanding. Here own. Now the question was why many companies are actually going with public cloud instead of on-premises and these things. The reason is database. You are ultimately reducing your cost here, right? You are reducing your load here ultimately. Anyway, you need to pay something for SAP, that is for sure. But any upgrade or any things that are coming up, you no need to take a follow-up with SAP. SAP itself is doing all upgradation and all that things for you, right? Here, when you are working on premises, you must know, like you need to identify the issues, then you need to check the notes, you need to raise that question to SAP, and SAP used to correct that things and give the node details to you, and your ABAP consultant, basis consultant has to update that note to your server or to your database. But in the public cloud, whenever you are facing that kind of issue, SAP will take care of all that things. If it's a private cloud, you need to raise the things to the third party. Third party will get in touch with SAP, update the notes, and do the things for you. So there's many companies are actually working on premises as well as public cloud. Any question, guys? Am I answer your question like who I don't know the name who asked that question, the difference between on premises and public cloud?
Yeah, me only. I only
Okay,
asked the question.
okay, okay, good. Thanks. So this is at a very high level, guys. We are a PP consultant. We are not actually going in more detail. Those who are actually very new in our session or new people in course, those who are actually new about SAP, they should not more worry about this technical part. But this is the informative session for you. This is a high level SAP history and how SAP is actually doing in SAP S4 Hana and ECC. Uh, from our tomorrow's session, we will have some more little descriptive, and then we will start jumping into the system and start configuring your company and plant and all that things. Okay. Also, in our next batch, I mean, in the same batch, what we have that is the advanced training. We will discuss in more detail about the database because many times, even I also seen we know like SAP has did the data footprint reduction, but how? What is the column structure? What is the row structure? How SAP is actually playing with that? That we will discuss in our advanced training, not here, because that will be more technical, and the people who are very new to SAP they will get more confused and more tense by looking into this. So instead, from our next session, we will start discussing about production planning processes. Is that okay, guys? Okay, so what I'll do is I have one more slides actually. I'm not going to take more time because it's almost 9. I have some more slide for you to explain the same thing what we discuss now. Okay, see what is the nomenclature and what kind of on-premise and cloud version. That's what we will discuss here. Okay, see here. SAP came up with 15.11 first version, then 16.11, then 17.2. What is that? Then 17.5. What is that? We never heard about this, right? We directly heard about 1709. Where is 1709? There is something else. So what is that? SAP is upgrading the cloud version quarterly. That's what we talk. In 15.11, SAP came up with first version, that is 15.11, correct? Then it came 16.10, right? Then 1709. Then 1809, and now it's 1909, correct? So this is your on-premises version. But in between 15.11 to 16.10, SAP is upgrading cloud versions. What is the cloud version? Actually, SAP is coming with different Fiori applications. If any applications are not working properly, if any bug fixings are these things that SAP used to upgrade here in the cloud version. Now, how it will come to your system then? If I'm working on 1609, now I have implemented 1709. In between, if there are something changes, then we need to upgrade the feature pack stack, where this kind of versions or this kind of additional functionalities are coming, that will be get covered here. So if I'm working on public cloud, I no need to worry more about these things. SAP will take care about that feature pack stack, and I need to just need to raise or need to just monitor whether recent feature pack stack is upgraded, right? So these things are nothing but in your on-premises version, which is actually upgrading yearly. But in between, we do have a cloud versions upgrading, and to cover this cloud version upgradation, we need to update the future factor. In our ECC, you do remember if I'm working on ECC 5.0, then ECC 5.0 enhancement pack 4, enhancement pack 5, this kind of packages are coming, right? The same way, if I'm working on premises, I will have a version 1709, 1809, 1909. In between, if there are any changes with this cloud version, we can upgrade the feature pack stack. That's how actually the versions are upgrading. So this is for the information. Many times we, as a functional consultant, we never know what is feature pack stack. So what is feature pack stack? Where SAP used to fix the bugs. Then any performance issue or any new Fiori applications are coming. That kind of applications will be covered in this feature pack stack. Okay. There is one more good slide, but before going ahead, I just want to know if you are clear about the release and nomenclature for SAP S4 HANA. What is cloud version? What is on-premises version? How it is upgrading? What is feature stack? What actually we are doing in feature stack? Any doubts or question on that, guys? Okay, I hope you get very detailed. There is only one slide that I want to show you here. This is one of the beautiful, and this is just the informative slide for you. Okay. If you see here how SAP was actually decided to move ahead, and what are the SAP's predictions when SAP launched the SAP S4HANA. SAP launched S4HANA in 2015, and now maybe we are sitting here, right? Oh, sorry, here we are sitting here. Now, earlier days from 2015 to 2017, we discussed, although there was SAP S4HANA, but many companies are actually not implementing S4HANA. What they used to do, they used to work on sidecar scenario or suit on HANA scenario, and they are not actually upgrading from ECC to SAP S4HANA. This was a very initial period. Then from 2016, actually it took the boom, where many companies started migrating their database from ECC to HANA database, right? And then ECC to HANA database, they started using suite on HANA also. And from now, then in 2019-20, this is the period actually they started moving from ECC suite on HANA to S4 HANA. Also, some of the companies who actually not adopted suite on HANA or sidecar, they are actually directly moving from ECC to S4 HANA. So you can see this is the period, like if you Google or if you go to the Naukri.com also, you will come to know in SAP, you will see, okay, they are looking for SAP S4 HANA consultant, right? So that is actually the boom. Many companies are actually migrating from ECC to S4HANA, and that is why SAP, many companies are actually looking for that kind of consultant. So this is the expected boom that SAP was thinking in 2022, maybe in next couple of years. Many of the companies will be migrated to SAP S4HANA. Okay, and what SAP has said here, this was very old slide, guys. This is not the correct figures. You should not tell, or you should not put that figures in any certification question. But at a very initial level, SAP was saying they will end their SAP ECC support by 2025. It could be get changed now based on the current pandemic and corona situation, but this was the SAP's plan or predictions when SAP launched SAP S4HANA. So this was the current boom. That's why many companies or many people actually learning about SAP S4HANA. That's why also I'm also recommending those who are actually working on SAP, they should also migrate to SAP S4HANA. Anyway, we will cover that SAP S4HANA simplification in our course also for production planning. So this is SAP S4HANA migration. Any question on these, guys, if you have, because this is just the information slide. I just want to show you. Okay, guys, now what I'll do, I'll take a break here. If you have any kind of questions, what we discuss in today's session or our earlier session, you can ask me now. You can unmute or you can raise your hand. No questions? Okay. Okay, then, guys, we will end up today's session, and we will meet in next session in the next week, where we will maybe discuss about little bit detail about the interface, user interface, and we will start our production planning processes. Okay. Thanks for joining the session, and have a great week ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.